Before you begin your project, let's review the requirements so you know how you're going to be graded. You need to show the principle of design unity, and you'll best do this by having all of your tangles and patterns relate to one another by being all geometric or all organic. You're also going to have to show the principle of design movement. You'll do this by placing all of your leading lines in tangles on angles to lead the viewer's eye throughout the entire composition. You're also going to have to show the element of design space by having your leading lines overlap. The largest amount of points you'll get for this project will be how well you draw a line. You will have to draw at least 6 different tangles from the tangle packets on Schoology or from tanglepatterns.com. You'll have to incorporate 3 of the original patterns we will come up with later in this project. You're going to have to vary your lines and having excellent contrast of black against tangles that are very white. I'm also going to be grading you on your effort and time management and how well you complete the project during the days you're at school or at home. If you take care of the materials and equipment, that's an additional 5 points, as well as how well you're doing your craftsmanship. Your paper should be clean and neat, and all of your happy accidents should be hidden. Before you begin, choose which tangles you actually want to put within a leading line. I would like to try to put these 3 together. I chose these 3 because they visually relate to one another, they have nice contrast, and I believe they can be blended into one another quite easily. Once you have your tangles chosen, visualize how you're going to blend them and which one would be best to begin. So for this one, I'm drawing these circles first, and then they're going to have this crisscross line that goes in between them. Like me, when you begin drawing, you have to begin with a micron pen. You are not allowed to draw with a pencil. So that means you might be making some happy accidents that you have to fix. And I definitely made some in the beginning part of this. As you finish a tangle, constantly analyze your work. Look at how is your contrast. Do you have too much white, not enough black? Do I have enough line variations? And even though I'm starting to do this second tangle, I'm noticing that I just don't have enough black yet. So I'm going to go back in there and I'm going to start adding in black inside the area of my first tangle. Once I begin doing this, you're going to start to notice how this tangle is starting to, really pop forward. I also want you to notice I just added those extra little bits of lines in there. And the reason for that is I never want to just color in a black and have it be colored in a too big of an area. So I'm trying to break up the black by adding a couple more lines. I also want you to notice how I'm allowing the tangles to define the edge. Avoid outlining your leading lines, as this can limit how the tangles interact with the edge of your leading lines. Also notice how I'm drawing my tangles on angles to help show movement. And I'm also drawing them in the same direction as the leading lines. They are curving with the angles, so it creates a beautiful flow of movement throughout the leading line. And take your time and make every mark intentionally. If you make a happy accident, pause and come up with a solution. And always know it is okay to vary a tangle by adding in more black or patterns if it would make your Zentangle look better. Keep your tangles on a small to medium scale. Don't draw them too large and don't draw them too small where you can't see the detail. I'm also choosing to repeat the tangles that I did on the top, also on the bottom. You do not have to do this. This is just one way to complete a leading line, but it's not the only way to complete a leading line. I like to do it because I think it helps unify a leading line together. Now, common things that you want to avoid. Do not draw your tangles too large. This will create a focal point. A focal point is when an artist tries to get the viewer to look at one particular spot, not at the entire composition, where that's the goal with movement. We want people to look through the entire work. So if you draw something too big, that's all the viewer is going to look at. Also, you have to hide these happy accidents. Notice how I'm drawing through the rest of this tangle and I'm not ending my lines cleanly. I'm going to have to go back and hide that. So don't leave happy accidents unattended. Never start drawing a tangle in a different spot within the same leading line that you've already began drawing in, because it's very hard to blend tangles together. And that's your biggest goal here, is trying to get tangles to blend to where it looks like one tangle is growing out of another. Please also avoid coloring over a tangle that you don't like completely black. You will lose a large amount of points for doing this because you've just created the worst focal point that you could ever made. So please come up with a solution on how to hide those tangles and happy accidents. And lastly, never draw a tangle that goes in the opposite direction of the movement you are trying to create. Notice that by drawing horizontally, this totally breaks that vertical movement I was trying to do. So make sure you're blending your tangles together. You draw at least 6 different tangles throughout your entire Zentangle project, 3 original patterns that you will create later in the project. Make sure your lines are varied, you have good contrast, you hide happy accidents, and that you're showing unity by drawing all organic or geometric tangles. And then you're also showing movement by drawing these tangles on angles and the same angles as your leading lines.